With Baldur's Gate right around the bend, I wanted to make a video to help players who might not be familiar with the 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons rule set. My intention with this video is to explain some of the game's core mechanics, and hopefully lead someone to a better understanding of what to expect when starting Baldur's Gate 3. Welcome back friends, I'm Rogue, and today we will be discussing how to Baldur's Gate 3. Let us begin at the beginning. What is Baldur's Gate 3? Well, the simple answer is that it's an isometric co-op multiplayer or single-player role-playing game, where you take on the role of a heroic or villainous adventurer. Now, I'm going to be keeping this as spoiler-free as possible to save the who's and what's for you to discover for yourself. That being out of the way, let's unpack what the game's core mechanics have to offer. The character's proficiency is a static bonus applied to all heroes. This bonus is solely based on your total character level. Here is a chart for easy reference. Knowing that bonus really isn't that incredibly important because your race and class have no effect on this bonus. It is tied holistically to your total level. This is true for all classes, meaning that a wizard and a fighter of equal level have the same bonus. Furthermore, this means that whatever class or racial combo you choose will only have to rely on their ability scores to determine success or failure in any given task. Ability scores are a core mechanic of your chosen hero. There are 6 ability scores that are all tied to your proficiency if your hero is considered proficient with any given item or skill. Here are the 6 scores and what they affect. These abilities will be determined by you upon diving into what I consider your biggest choice when starting Baldur's Gate 3, character creation. Character creation in Baldur's Gate 3 is very similar to the character generation of tabletop Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. This means that you'll be flooded with a variety of choices on the aesthetics and stats of your chosen hero. Each race and class comes equipped with a swath of traits, background, skills, and spells. This can all be very overwhelming, but armed with a little inside information may lessen the burden of where do I even begin. Deciding your race and class can come as easily as asking yourself, what do I want my character to be good at? If I want my hero to be a magic user, I must then decide what type of magic user. A holy cleric? Well, then wisdom should be the attribute I seek to improve. A powerful wizard? Then intelligence should be my go-to ability score. A bard, warlock, or sorcerer? Then charisma is the stat I need the most. Knowing what attribute my chosen hero relies on is vital in a hero's success. Now that's not to say that you can't rail against the grain and be a warlock with lower charisma or a rogue with low dexterity, but you may find that some encounters are more difficult if you choose this route. Now, some classes such as the paladin and the monk rely on more than one attribute to be successful. These classes have what is known in Dungeons & Dragons as MAD, which is short for multiple attribute dependency. The paladin is typically considered a frontline character, meaning that they also need a good strength or dexterity for fighting and a strong constitution for hit points, and finally charisma for spellcasting. Now this may be a little confusing, but real quick, let's break down the ability scores and their corresponding bonuses. Characters begin play with an 8 in all ability scores, not including their racial modifiers. 10 equals 0, and for every 2 points an attribute raises, the bonus increases by a +1. Here's a chart for easy reference. 12 plus 1, 14 plus 2, 16 plus 3, to a maximum of 17 at character creation, which is still +3. Each character also has 27 points to distribute into their abilities or stats. Knowing that the paladin requires strength or dexterity for close quarter combat, constitution because they are typically a frontline character, and hit points are always good points, and charisma for future spellcasting. I should try my best to ensure that my hero has at minimum a +2 in these areas. This means that even if my paladin isn't the best at any given attribute, they are still capable of filling the role of a paladin. Let's break it down a little further. A human, for example, begins with a 9 in every ability. This is because all humans receive a +1 to all ability scores at character creation. Knowing that I should have a minimum of +2 in strength because I like to bonk things, constitution because that will grant me an additional +2 hit points each time I level up, and a +2 to charisma to ensure that I can cast all paladin spells. This leaves me with 12 points to trim out the rest of my hero's abilities. Now, I said dexterity was important earlier because it affects both ranged combat, such as bows, and finesse weapons such as daggers and other fiddly weapons. But dexterity also affects a hero's armor class, so I should have at least a +1. From here, it's all flavor of choice, and yes, there are meta ways to trim out most, if not all, classes that I'm sure are going to be popping up all over the internet real soon. And if that's your thing, I say go crazy. But personally, I'm not a fan of the meta play and prefer the fun to play, but to each their own. Now, racial ability bonuses may change upon release, but the formula of knowing what ability best suits a character class will not. Wizards will always need intelligence, barbarians will always need strength or dexterity, and clerics will still need wisdom, and a racial bonus will only carry you so far. With all of that out of the way, let's move on to skills. Skills follow the same core mechanic as everything else. Skills that a hero is proficient in grant them their level-based proficiency bonus plus the corresponding ability score. If a hero is not proficient, they do not add their level-based proficiency bonus, meaning that my paladin, who is proficient in persuasion, gets to add his proficiency bonus plus charisma modifier when attempting to persuade Shadowheart to fall in love with him.
Calm yourself. It was a hypothetical.
Saving throws are utilized when a hero is faced with a challenge that isn't determined by a skill or armor class. These are usually debuffing spells, mind-affecting debilitations, or hazardous traps. Saving throws follow the same mechanic as all other checks. Each character class is proficient in 2 ability score saving throws. The Paladin, for example, is proficient in Wisdom and Charisma, meaning that any harmful effect that targets either of these 2 abilities, my Paladin is allowed to add his level-based proficiency bonus to the dice roll. The same as skills, all other ability score saves do not receive the proficiency bonus. And now for the edge factor of Baldur's Gate 3, the dice value. All attacks, skills, and saving throws are determined by a 1d20 roll. That is a roll of a single 1 to 20 sided dice. Now, I'm not going to get into natural 20s or 1s. Just know that the higher the number on the dice, typically the better. There are a lot of moving parts in 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons rule set that Larian has implemented into Baldur's Gate 3, but I don't want the simple-ish formula to be too bogged down. For now, knowing that to be successful in Baldur's Gate 3 is as simple as adding proficiency plus ability plus dice roll is as deep as we're going to get today. I hope that this video helps someone to get a better understanding of how the gameplay mechanics of Baldur's Gate 3 works, and leads you to an amazing hero. Well, my friends, if you made it through all of this jargon unscathed, I appreciate your time, and I hope you have a great adventure. Goodbye.